friends from Uganda. It's nice to see people from Africa because ever since my wife and I went to Sierra Leone last year in the month of March, for 2 months on a mission trip, we've developed a special kind of love for Africa and the people of Africa. And we were being invited to come out there as missionaries, but we are just waiting on the Lord. We are available to Him to go wherever He sends us. And it's a pleasure to present what we did there in Africa for just 2 months. This was from March 15th to May 15th of that year. This is a map of Africa. I don't know how many of us know that there are 53 countries in Africa. I didn't know that before we went to Africa, and Africa was never in our mind at all. We've been working in missions in our own country, India, and Africa was something that was very much at the back of our mind. It was not really something that we expected to go or work, but we believe that it was God's call, that He sent us out at, at a late stage in our lives. We are never, I think doctors never retire. We cannot retire, I guess. And we were privileged to have been chosen to go to Sierra Leone in West Africa. Sierra Leone is a small country on the top northwestern part of Africa, and it's a very small country actually, and it's only about 30,000 square miles in area, and the population just of 4.5 million people. 40% of them are Muslim, 30% are Christian, and 30% are tribals and spiritists and so on. This is simply a picture of rural Sierra Leone. It's so much similar to India in many places. We especially were very happy to see the mango trees everywhere. There were lots of mango trees in Sierra Leone, but the mangoes are pretty horrible. There were also another tree which we found in Africa, which we find very much in South India. It's called Purukapalli. In Tamil we call it Purukapalli. So there were lots of Purukapalli trees. This is the capital, Freetown. Freetown is the capital of Sierra Leone, and that's where we went to work. This is city downtown Freetown. And this is one of the streets out there. See, a lot of these goods, many of these things hanging there, all those jeans and t-shirts, they're all second-hand stuff coming from the UK and the US. Second-hand clothes are sent out there in big crates, I believe, and they are sold in special shops, and many of the people wear them. The socio-economic status, about 67% live below the line of poverty. They have very poor infrastructure development, having suffered from civil war for 12 years. And they do not have state-owned electricity in Freetown, the capital of the country. And all electricity is supplied by private generators. Unemployment is very common there. The people are extremely friendly. I think Africans in general are very friendly people, and they enjoy the company of the They have a low crime rate there. There was just one armed robbery in the 2 months we were there, in a petrol pump where they took up cash and at gunpoint. That was the only crime we really heard of. 30% of the population practiced witchcraft and spiritism. Our mission was to work for 2 months in a mission hospital there, the United Methodist Church Hospital in Freetown, which was the capital. And we were sponsored by the United Methodist, the global ministries of the United Methodist Churches in America. And they have a number of missions running in Africa. Many countries, Nigeria, Ghana, and many of the surrounding countries around Sierra Leone have mission stations which are set up by the United Methodist Churches of North America. And our job was to provide free surgical services to the poor people in Sierra Leone, because many of them could not afford the normal treatment for surgery. Most of the treatment was pretty expensive. And we found that, when we compared the rates, we found that it is as much or higher than the rates charged for similar operations in India. The United Methodist Church Hospital had 2 wings. There was an ophthalmic wing and a general wing. The general wing was mainly maternity medicine. And they had just built a new surgical ward with 50 beds and with 2 operating rooms. All the hospital furniture and all equipment are second-hand equipment from the US. They had a very basic laboratory and a pharmacy, and they had an ultrasound machine, but they did not have an X-ray. They had a very good AIDS counseling center. We have a picture of the maternity ward, where all the deliveries, most of the deliveries were looked after by a midwife, a very senior local midwife, who did an excellent job. And my wife was very impressed with her skills in delivering babies under all kinds of conditions. This is the page of the hospital. This guy who's standing here is a chap called Mohammed. He's a Muslim, but he does not go to a mosque. He goes only to churches, and he says, I'm a Christian at heart, even though he has a name of Mohammed, and he never goes to the mosque, he says. Our professional work simply consisted of screening surgical patients and gynecological patients, and this an announcement of our availability was made through radio, and many of the patients lined up to be screened. We had to select cases according to the facilities available in the hospital, which was very basic compared to even to India. But fortunately, we had a nurse anesthetist who could give anesthesia, and we had to do only surgery below the umbilicus because he could give only spinal anesthesia, which is regional anesthesia, and we could not do any other operations above the level of the umbilicus. Operations were in the mornings, and we had surgical consultations in the afternoon. This is the surgical team. You can see 2 of us here in the center, and we have a theatre nurse, and this guy on the extreme right is the anesthetist. They were fairly well trained. They were trained by an American missionary who went out there as the first general doctor and who set up the operating room and all the facilities there. This is an operation in session. So the big fibroid tumor of the uterus which my wife and I took out, and this the guy with the headless guy is me. Evangelical work. The 2 religions, major religions of Islam and Christianity, they were very generously tolerant of each other. This was very impressive there. They never had any animosity between themselves, and we'll often see Muslims attending evangelical meetings and Muslims coming to church and sitting happily in the pews and worshipping with all the others. We don't see that anywhere else, I guess. And there was a remarkable openness to the gospel, so we were able to share the gospel very freely to all our patients. And we gave the gospel to every patient we came into contact with, as well as with many staff and several of the attendants of the patients. And many received salvation. Church life in Sierra Leone, many churches, both mainline and denominational, services were in a corrupted form of English called Creole, and we couldn't understand most of the sermons in the main United Methodist Church. So we used to go to a New Life Ministry church where the pastors spoke good English, which we could understand. The non-denominational independent churches were called born-again churches by the local people. So that was the terminology for the non-denominational churches that were there. Poverty, rampant. Most of the people had only 1 meal a day, which was pretty shocking to us. In the morning, our staff would look so tired in the morning, just as we were starting the day, when we are all set to, jump into the day, and these people were looking so tired. So we asked them, what's the problem? Do you have any problem at all? And finally, with a great deal of persuasion, they agreed that they have not had any meal since yesterday afternoon or something like that. So that was their custom, I guess. Many of the clothes and goods were used items from the US as I said, and were stored in specific shops. The diet was rice and cassava and small potatoes, along with the leaves of potatoes and cassava, which we have never heard to be very edible. Many people also depended on selling small consumer goods. The most prevalent diseases we found there, 90% of the people carried the malarial parasite in them, and 70% of the people were HIV positive. There was polygamy and promiscuity, very common, and gynecologically there were lots of fibroid tumors of the uterus. So lots of uteruses were taken out with fibroid tumors, and there was a lot of what we call secondary infertility. That is, many of them had 1 child, and after that they never had children for a long time. And my wife will And of course, all kinds of infections were common because of their low immunity status. Our extracurricular ministry consisted of cooking and serving meals to starving patients and staff. Very often I would go to the ward in the morning after operation and find many of my patients have not had anything to eat since the operation. So we had to cook some food in our own apartment and take it to the patients, and of course the staff also shared with it. We also helped out with a lot of generous tipping of service staff, and we identified two very deserving people in the hospital to support them for their studies, and we are still supporting them to improve their prospects. One is a lady whom we are supporting to do higher grade nursing, and another man for basic nursing. We had an informal meet with a church leader in Sierra Leone to advise him on how the church has got a great opportunity to change, to some extent at least, the local culture, the polygamy and the sexual promiscuity which was resulting in so many problems there. And that's about it. I didn't want to take too much time in this because they are the heroes of today, so I'd like to welcome them and hand it over to them for the rest of the service. Thank you all.
Maybe all give